Hello everyone, Zerda back again, this time with another Team Top Deck testing video. Today I have something a little more interesting for you, playing something I've wanted to for a while, and now that I have the third copy of Uro, I feel a little more confident in putting this together. This is Temur Control, not Reclamation. So, I'm going to give you a quick run through the deck. We have two opts to help fuel our Blitz of the Fire, or Thunder Raptor. 3 copies of Quench because I couldn't quite decide on the split between Negate and Essence Scatter, and I decided that it was probably better to just play a early game counter whatever I want split with Neutralize, so some soft permission. It's not that much worse than Mana Leak, and we do have Thirst for Meaning to pitch dead cards in the late game or help fuel our Uros. And our Blitz of the Thunder Raptors because these two are a little bit of a non-bow. But generally speaking, if you're bringing back Uro, you're probably not going to need to Blitz. And if you do, you're in a pretty bad spot anyway. It's a non-bow, but honestly, I just don't have the cards to try this in Sultai yet, which will be the next control brew I try. And honestly, I think Sultai's a little bit better, but for now, this is what we have, and we have some exile removal, which those colors don't get, which is also pretty important right now. We have a split of 1 Fire Prophecy and 1 Scorching Dragonfire. The 1 Fire Prophecy is because I believe the pseudo rummaging effect is fairly good. Being able to get rid of cards that are dead in the late game, excess lands, dig 4 lands, cards that just don't have any kind of impact on the matchup, maybe things like that. And the Scorching Dragonfire because more exile removal is pretty important. 4 copies of Growth Spiral, once again helps fuel all our spells, helps set up our big mana plays like our Hydroid Krasis. We're playing 2 copies of Krasis. I might be tempted to bump it up to 3. I don't think you'd want 4. This is kind of, we're not a just get to the mana to play Krasis and then slam Krasis deck. We're more of a build up, gain control of the game, slam a Krasis to refuel, and whether it resolves or not, the trigger should win us the game kind of a deck. We have 2 copies of Thassa's Intervention. This is just a really, really good card draw spell in the late game, and in the early game it functions technically as a neutralize on turn 3. So it gives you interaction and card advantage, and that kind of duality to it, it being a split card, basically, is what makes me think that Thassa's Intervention deserves a spot in this deck. Also, with our mana ramping, it can get to some pretty big numbers and just find us whatever we need. Super late. We have 3 copies of Uro. This card is absolutely insane. Let's just staple a Healing Salve onto a Growth Spiral for 1 generic mana, because why not? I guess it's at sorcery speed, but it also comes back again and again, and triggers on attack. So we have 3 copies of Uro. I wouldn't play 4. You don't need 4. 3 is just kind of so we see it every game, and we have the life gain. This is our biggest plan against things like mono red and things like that, is control them early and then slam down the Uro to end the game. 2 copies of Mystical Dispute. Teferi exists in this format. This card can be a 1 mana counterspell, which is absolutely absurd. And at 3 mana, it's still serviceable. We have 2 copies of Thirst for Meaning, kind of as a little bit of card filtering. Does it a little bit better than Op does. It's got a pseudo brainstorm effect. Only, like, it does the exact same thing once it's cast, in that it draws you 3 and it then gets rid of the 2 you don't want. Little bit of nuance there. But the pseudo part being mostly because, you know, it's 3 mana, not 1 mana. Which, oh man, wouldn't I love to see Brainstorm in a, well, I guess I'm not playing the fetch land. Fetch land standard. That'd be interesting. 2 copies of Neutralize. I don't think you can really afford to play more. It can cycle itself away when it's not good, though, and that's what makes me choose this over something that I would normally prefer, such as the Surveil counterspell I can't remember the name of right now. 2 copies of Storm's Wrath. We are a control deck. We do need a sweeper, especially against the aggressive decks of the format. this being on 4 mana is pretty relevant. We'd obviously rather it be more, or I should say less conditional, but we work with what we can use. And we have 4 copies of Shark Typhoon because we do not want to just lose to Teferi, and also Shark Typhoon is just a good card. Being able to create a blocker, draw a card, and, you know, just be used however you want it is really good. Flash, card draw, token, what's not to love. And then we move into the mana base. We are mostly blue-red, and our mana base reflects that with 4 Steam Vents, 4 Temple. We only play 3 Stomping Grounds and 1 Temple of Abandon, and 4 copies of Breeding Pool. Tap land's not really a problem. Early, we have plenty of untapped sources in our shock lands, a few basics. We do play a copy of Castle Vantress to use as a mana sink. We will have a absurd amount of mana if things are going right, and Castle Vantress is a good way to utilize that. The reason for the what is it called? Honestly, I would rather have this temple here be the blue-green temple. I don't have one right now. I don't think it's a huge difference, so I just cut down on the stomping ground count. Green is a splash color. We don't need an absurd amount of it, and we'd rather have blue-red anyway. And we play 4 copies of Key to Triome, or Ketria Triome, however you want to pronounce it, just because taps for all of our colors, so turn 1 it is the best land for us to play. And it cycles away in the late game, so if we're flooded out and really don't want to land, it's a better draw even than a temple. And 2 copies of Blast Zone because it deals with any permanents that we otherwise would be completely unable to. So if that Flourishing Fox gets a little too big, we're looking for Blast Zone. If that Teferi is in play, well, I guess the Blast Zone's at 3, and we're not going to have to worry about blitzing or wrathing or Shark Typhooning. Just kind of a catch-all. I think if you're playing a control deck in this format, you should just play Blast Zone. It does so much. If your mana base can afford it, if your mana base can't afford it, then just add them as 2 additional lands. Your mana will get better, and you'll have a Wrath in your lands. It's just such a good card. Just a land drop that, hey, it casts my spells and it blows up the board. What's not to love? Alright, and then moving into the sideboard, I'm not set on this. This is my first draft. Let's move it to the side so it's actually easier to see. We have 2 copies of Shock for the mono-red and aggressive decks, things like Cat Oven. 2 copies of Scrambling Claws, a little bit of Grave Hate. I'd prefer Grafdigger's Cage, but I do not have access to those at the moment. And I'm not entirely convinced that this wouldn't be, not better, but also very relevant, more relevant in some matchups. For instance, if we're playing against another Uro deck, and we don't want to just board our Uros out or play a cage that's going to, you know, turn those off, we can Scrambling Claws, clear their graveyard, just kind of use it to keep our own graveyard plan going while simultaneously shutting off our opponents. 2 copies of Aethergust, good against mono red, good against fires. There's not many cards that fill both of those roles at the same time. Against mono red, it kind of just puts the card back on top of their deck and stops you from taking damage for a turn. Just a little bit of a tempo play, capable of dealing with an Ember Cleave. Disdainful Stroke, really good against fires, good against Reclamation, good against control decks, Yorion decks, anything trying to Agent of Treachery you, with the exception of Winota. 2 copies of Negate. Negate's really good in this format, and we don't have any in the main board. 1 copy of Fry. Deals with Teferi, can't be countered. That's why it's here. 1 Underworld Fires, mostly for the cat decks, but also because it's good against mono red. 1 damage to each creature and each Planeswalker. Planeswalker I doubt will ever become relevant on this, but the 1 damage to all creatures could very much be a just straight up board wipe. And exiling them can be important against things like the cat if they don't have the oven out or it's already tapped. If I combine it with another removal spell such as Shock to kill something a little bit bigger that needs to be exiled. It stops Lurrus from getting anything killed by this back. And most importantly, at least to me, it's also going to, not most, I don't know why I said that. I say things sometimes before I think about them. And I guess you've noticed that by now if you're watching this video. The 1 mana 2/1 that you can pay 2 to get back from the graveyard. Just exiling that is also pretty good, means they won't be able to get it back and use it against you later in the game. Return to nature over the cycling disenchant effect. Just destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or grave hate. I need a little bit more grave hate, I feel. So I have Return to Nature. It's pretty good against anything that has both Uro and Fires, or Uro and Wilderness Reclamation, so I figured I'd play this one over those. Just, if I'm bringing this card in, it's because I'm going to want the effect at some point. And having a little bit more utility, I feel, is better than the ability to have it cycle. Not that I'm saying I'm absolutely right there. 1 copy of Flame Sweep, once again for the aggressive decks. Dealing 2 damage is a lot more than dealing 1 damage, but exiling is a lot more relevant than not exiling. So here we are with the Flame Sweep. And 2 Chandra Awakened Inferno in case I come against any control decks that are trying to slowly grind me out, and I just want to plop down an uncounterable 6-mana Planeswalker and proceed to tick up until they have to try and find a way to kill me that they probably don't have fast enough for that. So that is the deck, and let's go ahead and hop right on into some matches. And here we go. Alright. Off screen, I managed to get out of silver and up to gold 3. Nothing to brag about, but it shows you that this is better than our usual decks we play. So let's see, opponent going first, lead on Temple, turn 2, Forest, hold up either Quench or Growth Spiral. I think that's pretty powerful against a less aggressive deck. Alright, so here we're obviously going to want removal. And it's a shame our best removal spell isn't actually a good draw right now. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor is something we would rather have when we're a little bit later into the game than turn 2. Alright, so we have an Uro, so that's something we can hold on to. So this isn't Obosh deck, meaning we do need to be cognizant of when they start getting up to those higher mana counts. I'm going to go ahead and counter this. I don't need their creatures all getting bigger, and I don't need them getting closer to Obosh. Alright, that's a good draw. So here... I think my best bet is going to be Island and potential double Growth Spiral. Like I said, I don't need to deploy the Uro yet, and I'd want to get mostly just as deep into the deck as I possibly can, especially if there's a Legion War Boss down. Right, so I'm going to see if before combat I can hit a removal spell. Sadly, I didn't. And also, I think I'm going to have to shock myself to dig for that second red source here. I'll let them know I don't have anything, but really I'm just digging to try and Storm's Wrath. It doesn't kill that, so no real point in holding out. Hope they don't have a land isn't where I like seeing myself, but I like myself in that position a lot more than if they just get to untap with that Legion War Boss and do so much damage to us. Alright, so second Legion War Boss. We're in a very bad position here, as you can see. We'd be in a pretty good position if it wasn't for their companion, which is a real cost of not playing a companion deck. I've given some thought to cutting some of the double mana spells and playing the 5 mana 5/5 just so that we have the card advantage for it, but I don't think we can give up Storm's Wrath, sadly. Alright, so let's see. If I play this, or not that, if I play Uro and I don't hit a land, I think I can pass here. And just Shark Typhoon to kill the Legion War Boss, or counter the Obosh. I imagine they would play the Obosh pre-combat, if they plan to play it. Alright. And here I will Shark Typhoon. x equals 3, so that if they want to eat my shark, they'll have to use the Castle Embrith. Note, this also keeps digging me through my deck, which is something I really want to do. Alright, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. Them doing that means that I am safe from Obosh this turn. Does mean, yeah, I'll just be in the same position next turn if I don't do this, except worse. Because I'll be at less life. Alright, so let's see. What can we do? Alright, my position is starting to deteriorate to the point that I have to play the Uro, and really hope I draw an untapped not Shockland. Next turn... Alright. So next turn... Because the, yeah, that's not going to be lethal even if they play that. That is in fact the best thing that could have happened, which is ironic, considering how much I didn't want it to happen. Huh. Maybe I should have done it on my turn. Because next up I'm just going to be able to play the Uro. Here I'll take 4. Oop, nope. Well, I was going to say 4 there and 1 there. But, oh well. So we're going to want our Shocks. We're going to want our Aether Gust. We're going to want our Flame Sweep. And we're going to want our Underworld Fires. What we don't want in this matchup is things like Mystical Dispute, it's a little too slow. Neutralize, once again, a little too slow. And here is where I always seem to struggle a little. I suppose we could cut down at least 1 Thassa's Intervention and also drop... Yeah, I like the Quench, it comes down fast enough, especially on the play. And I suppose a Shark Typhoon. And let's try it like that. I'll be on the play. I do like this because of the Shock, the Flame Sweep, and the Opt all together, but I don't like how light on lands I am. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this. It's not the worst, and it does have enough to keep me alive through the early game. And the Flame Sweep means that I don't need to be super aggressive about shocking the first thing that comes down. And I'm able to use the Opt to just look for lands. Play a tap land. Hold up both Shock and Opt, depending on their play. I doubt there's anything they can do that'll make me shock here, though. So I'm going to Opt, mostly looking for lands. There are some other spells that I could theoretically be interested in. Alright, so they get to play both of those, that's fine. Flame Sweep will still be a 2-for-1. Still pull me ahead on card advantage. I do want that land. So here I am somewhat tempted to shock an Uro. But I think that's the greed talking. No, I do think that's right. It gives them another turn to build up their board before I Flame Sweep. It's technically still life positive. And it gives me the best chance of seeing what I need. So let's see. That's the last land I'm going to want to keep for a while. Ooh, Annex. Alright, so Annex is a little bit problematic, but not the worst. Alright, so here I could go Shock and then Flame Sweep, which leaves them with a lot more creatures than I'm comfortable with. I could also go Blitz of... Let's see, if I go Shock, Blitz the Annex. Alright, if I kill the Annex first, everything's fine, is what this is looking like. So So as long as the Annex dies, and then I get to clear up the board, I'm gonna play a tap land, and go ahead and pass turn. See what my opponent does before I decide on if I'm gonna shock blitz or let them generate a few tokens. But no matter what happens this turn, I am going to be killing the Annex. That is a rather huge threat. Interesting. I think I'm, I don't know what I'm representing that they're scared of. I guess Shark Typhoon? But no, then they'd have attacked with that. I don't know what they're doing here. So here comes the Exile of Annex. They will not get any tokens from him. Worth noting there. I think there's a potential that I play Hydroid Krasis on my turn, but only if I draw an untapped land, so I don't need to take the damage from the breeding pool. Otherwise, I'd rather just Flame Sweep first. Alright. So, not what I wanted to see at all. Does that make it more likely I just Hydroid? It does mean I take a lot of damage I don't need to take. So no, I'm not going to Hydroid yet. Ooh. A shame. It'll help me clear up the tokens afterwards. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it. I'm still gonna get slogged for a reasonable number there by Annex, which is unfortunate, but nothing I can do about it. I believe they're gonna drop the Oboe Shear, which is also a problem. If they drop the Oboe, actually, do I take it if they don't? So I take 12, drop to 3 in that scenario. Or sorry, I dropped to 2. But they have no tokens. And they don't have Annex. I think we risk it here. I think it's our best bet, even if it's pretty slim. As long as they don't shock us, and I'm not entirely sure if they kept shocking. It would make sense for them to, but at the same time I could see them cutting it as it's not removal here. And we do have ways to gain life later, as long as they don't have it right now. Then I think this sets us up the best to win. Alright, so they're playing around counter magic, or they don't have it, one way or the other. So let's start with Underworld Fires. Alright, so I think they have the shock and we're dead. If they didn't, then they would drop the Oboe, we'd drop a huge Hydroid Krasis, and I think we'd be pretty set up to win. Flame Sweep. And there you have it. So if they didn't have the shock there, I think we were set up pretty well, but obviously they did. I don't think I made the wrong choice there. I think I might have wanted to scry away lands a little more aggressively, but I did want access to all of those. It's just a little unfortunate how things worked out there. And as you could see, the Exile, incredibly relevant, otherwise all of those tokens would have it would have made it so that it didn't matter what we did, we were still just kind of dead. Even if we had done it the other way around, in Flame Sweep, kill all of them and then kill most of the tokens, they still have 2 tokens, we're dead on board. So the Exile is still very, very relevant for the Fires, to show you what I was talking about during the deck tech. This is going to be a mulligan. like, not enough lands to keep this. That's kind of just an obvious one. Against Yorhin with a Mystical Dispute and a Temple, I'm tempted. I'm a little sad about Fire Prophecy in this matchup, but there's still a chance it's relevant. I'm not going to want the Blitz. No, I might actually want the Blitz more than the Fire Prophecy, even though the Fire Prophecy might help save me a little more. But Teferi is a card played in a lot of Yorien decks, and I think it's something I should be aware of. I'm going to lead on Temple, look for a green mana source. We might take any 2-color mana source, though, because we still do need lands just in general as well as green mana. And as long as we hit the green eventually, we're fine. Alright, it's a good draw. We'll take that. We want to just early game build up our mana base a little. No reason to show them the green yet. Make them think we might have a counter that isn't Mystical Dispute, so they might try and wait and make us play around it. And try to play around it, but not Mystical. Like if they think it's a negate. And again, I think that was wrong. On reflection, I should have played the tap Steam Vent, so the next turn I could go Forest, Uro, hold up the island. I don't think I'd want to anyway here, though, actually. Alright, so in case they drop something that isn't blue and is completely unexpected... No, I'm going to play the tap land. And hold up the Mystical Dispute. Next turn I'll play the Forest, and if they don't do anything still, then I'm going to go ahead and deploy the Shark Typhoon for a 2/2. Alright, they're going to go ahead and make their 2/2 before me. Something else I'm kind of interested in trying is a Luris Hydroid Krasis deck. I just think that interaction, because normally when you play a Luris deck you don't get to have really big spells, but with Hydroid Krasis, you just get to kind of have your cake and eat it too. Alright, I'm definitely going to stop that. I don't need a 4/5 flyer coming down. Trading 1 mana for 5 mana is good enough that I'm willing to do it. It does make me think that they might have something really big for next turn planned. I think I'm just going to have to live with that, though. Deploy my Uro, get a card drawing while it's still good. Gain some life. We don't really care about the shark. Do miss a land drop there. Alright. And go ahead and pass turn. We will just deploy the shark during combat. It does let our opponent know the coast is clear, but I also want to clear the shark out of the way. Alright, so here we're seeing a place where Quench isn't going to be that good. If it was drawn early, it would have been pretty clutch. Not in this matchup, but in general. Alright, there's their Uro. There's one reason to not. I could have Scorching Dragon fired their Uro. Had it just stay exiled forever. So here, I'm just going to Growth Spiral. Try and hit a land. Quench is fine. My turn. Excellent. Tap land. Pass turn. I think we're getting Typhooned here. No, just cracked. Oh, no, yep, Typhoon. The past turn with all their mana up was pretty suspicious, is why I suspected it. Especially in a deck that likes to put permanents in play. Take 4. Don't really mind here. We'll just make a 2/2. Mostly just to get the card draw out of the way. We're not doing well with what's currently in our hand. We want to get access to a few more cards than what we currently have. Alright, excellent. Need to make more land drops. So here, if I can't quite redeploy Uro. Tap land, pass the turn. We will shock Scorching Dragonfire their shark. Try and build up the prerequisite number of instants and sorceries to be able to blitz an Uro. Been nice if we'd drawn Growth Spirals instead of Shark Typhoons, ironically, but whew. Alright, so here I'm gonna Mystical Dispute and then Quench. We don't really mind losing out on the mana. Or on the cards, I suppose. And this is also a way to make sure they can't use their own Mystical Disputes against us, as opposed to if we'd done it in the other order. It also keeps up the possibility of actually killing their shark. Which I'm thinking about again. I'm not sure I want to do. No, I definitely do. I'd rather have an unchecked Hydroid Krasis if it comes down to that than just a shark. So there's the Scorching Dragonfire that we wish had perma-exiled the Uro. We have 8 in yard, more than us. We are still able to hold up some mana for protection though, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy the Uro. Actually, no I'm not. I'm not because of the Blitz, which is that non-bow I told you about. Which makes me want to try Sultai more because it doesn't exist there and Uro is just pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to draw 2 cards, gain 2 life, deploy a giant 4/4 here. I'd rather it be a 5/5. There we go. Excellent. Now note, if they do kill the Hydroid Krasis, we don't much mind. If they're playing a Narset, then we're in pretty good shape here. As long as they don't find the removal. No? Maybe they have Oblivion Ring? Maybe they were looking for something to kill the Krasis? They might have a... Well, this does have Trample, so I guess a 1/1 Shark doesn't stop the Narset from dying. Oh, that is really good. Well, I suppose we don't need to, though. I'm going to save that in case of Teferi. Go ahead and take out the Narset. Deploy a Temple of Abandon, see what's coming up. We don't need more land now. We've reached the stage where we're happy with our mana development. We'd like another Hydroid Krasis at some point. Aether Gust? I'm completely fine with casting a second Hydroid Krasis, so I'll put it on top of my library. That's an Uro from hand. How many in their yard? 11? So that'd be... I suppose we let that resolve. Not something we're the happiest about. Yeah. But it's also not something that's the end of the world for us. was gonna say if they Urowed again there, we would have just quenched. So let's see. If I pay 4, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I want another 5/5 in the event that they. No, even if they do, I'm just gonna make it as big as I can. And a 7/7 is the same clock, but alright, we still draw 3 cards, gain 3 life. Can't stop that there. Not that the opponent really cares, they get to do basically the same whenever they cast an Uro. As do we, but a little bit different for us. Oh, Agent of Treachery. Okay, there was reason to leave open Quench, I just didn't see that coming. Alright, so from now on, we're going to start leaving open our mana in case that happens to us again, which is something we probably shouldn't have to say we really don't want to happen. Play the mountain. Pass the turn. There was some argument to Storm's Wrath there. I'm not really into that right now. I'd rather save it for if they deploy a walker. If I don't have that luxury, then I will do it next turn. And if it's Fairy, I'll counter basically just an Narset. Alright, let's see. 8 cards left, they'll be able to do it again. Not this turn. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle. And next turn, I'm able to go Storm plus Blitz the Uro. If they deploy anything else this turn, Quench is live. Although I'd kind of like a Thirst for Meaning to bin them at this point. My turn. Storm's Wrath first. Make sure of how it's tapping. Everything seems to be in order. Exile Uro 1. Pass the turn. We have a Growth Spiral to dig for our second Uro. Whew. Or not second Uro, our second Blitz for their second Uro. We will Growth Spiral here. Alright, nothing to do except let the Uro come down. Suppose we could make a 7/7 Krasis, as long as we're able to simultaneously hold up counter mana for Agent of Treachery. Alright, opponent, what are you doing? So let's see. So unfortunately 3 mana is not counter mana for that. However, deploying a Shark Typhoon as a spell does allow us to keep open enough mana to counter an agent, I believe. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, as long as we shock. So we're going to actually just cast a Shark Typhoon. I am fine with Omen of the Sea. Always an interesting situation you're in when you're actually casting your Typhoons. And shock so that the opponent doesn't just steal it. Does put us on a 2-turn clock from Uro, but let's be honest, that's not how we're going to lose this. We're going to lose this from the card draw from Uro that we're letting them have this turn. And the fact that they're almost up to the ability to go ahead and just, you know, bring back the Uro even if we blast zone it. Alright, so they're looking for something. They're shocking. The shock is a little bit of a concern. Especially because they could have their own counter magic. If they do nothing, we will just deploy a 5/5 and a Thassa's Intervention for 3 to try and find a Blitz of the Thunder Raptor, or really anything to get us out of this situation. Does leave us soft to Agent of Treachery, but honestly, we've been there for a while now. And they have the mana to... Alright. So we're definitely going to respond with a Thassa's Intervention, looking for cards. There's no way for us to counter it, so we're going to make our opponent decide here. Also, we're safe from Agent this turn, so... Let's see. Thirst for Meaning is pretty good. Key to Triome is a land that doesn't suck. I'm gonna Thirst for Meaning before anything else. I think the most likely course of action here is that I deploy Uro after. Not where I want to be, but also I could be in a lot worse positions. Alright, I will discard Quench, deploy the... I think we want to deploy Hand Arrow? That's non-creature only, right? Yes. Yeah, deploy Hand Arrow so that we stay alive. And also Digging. And gives us the ability to charge up Blast Zone. 2/3. I will deploy... Ooh, Castle Vantress. I was gonna say I will deploy the Stomping Ground here. But... Well, off of the Uro trigger, I should say. I'm gonna play the second Blast Zone otherwise. And... I'm going to attack because I'm not going to be blocking with my Shark yet. And you should always be doing something with your creatures. There is some thought, because at this point Blitz isn't going to be interfered with by Uro, but the reason I'm not just deploying them is that Agent of Treachery possibility. and that card is absolutely absurd. We want to have, say, a neutralize or something similar before we go ahead and just plop down a big threat we don't want them to take. Especially one that we have limited resources on and is our best threat. It is entirely possible I'm just playing way too scared, but our opponent is seeing a lot of cards with what they're doing, and I think it's kind of absurd to think that our opponent doesn't have Agent of Treachery at this point. They can resolve a Teferi. I'm actually kind of happy about that one.
I know my responsibility.
Well, you know, other than the fact that it's going to, I was gonna say allow them to agent steal our shark and put us in a bad spot, but it's not what happened, so let's just count our blessings. Yes, that resolves. We will be charging up and I believe deploying an Uro next turn. My only question is if we're going to blow up our own Uro or not. Tamio could I could see being a very big problem, especially with the oh boy. Let me guess, Agent of Treachery? Neutralize. Alright. Let's not make the same misplay as I have before. So I'm going to wait until their turn to blow up the world with the blast zone so that the Teferi doesn't just come back. The Yorion isn't as big of a deal with their current setup. What happened to the agent? So the agent makes it so that I don't just want to deploy something big. Alright, so I'm going to Temple of Epiphany. I don't need another Uro. I need to deploy an Uro. And I'm going to get rid of land, enchantment, enchantment, and then the rest doesn't matter. Okay. And I will deploy a Stomping Ground, entering tapped. And end my turn. Here comes Agent of Treachery. They will target my Blast Zone, I imagine. Or my Castle Vantage. I'm completely fine with you taking my Uro. I suppose I should have, before they could uptick to Fairy, blown up the world with Blast Zone, but hey. If I'm not punished, it wasn't a misplay, right?
Only time will tell.
So, wish I had mana to both use Neutralize and cycle a Triumph here, but them's the breaks, I guess. Imagine they're gonna get back to Teferi or similar. Shark Typhoon. Oh, there's literally nothing I can do about that. There's definitely something I can do about that, though, and let me tell you, the plan does not involve a Shark Typhoon resolved. Not something I'm entirely confident we'd be able to beat. We'd be able to charge up the Blast Zone, but I think it'd be way too slow. Alright, that's a problem. Here goes Blast Zone. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. Taking out Tamio is pretty relevant here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Does mean we're softer to Uro, but so be it. Kind of want to make a 9-9. So I guess I'm going to make a 9-9. Does tap me out. But honestly, here we're just trying to overpower our opponent. And there we go. Draw another blitz was another key part of this. And I do want that. Alright, so we have the blitz. We have the Storm's Wrath. If they steal our Hydroid Krasis, we get to blow up everything and then shoot the Krasis out of the goddamn sky. And let me tell you, that's going to be pretty key if they take it. Oh, that's pretty key because they took it. They're going to get to draw 9 cards here. And I'm not entirely sure what the plan is from that point, but I suppose it's they don't have any neutralizers left in their deck, and that's about it. That's all I can think of. Yep. They have a much stronger late game than us, and we didn't manage to close on the early. So, this is just kind of where we're going to end up in this matchup. Alright, so here we don't really have much choice. We're going to Storm's Wrath and shoot the Krasis. Post board, I think this gets a little better. We will be bringing in Grave Hate. And a lot of what they're doing here is the graveyard that's really messing us up. It's their loops. We can beat an Agent of Treachery, we can't beat infinite Agent of Treacheries. Gonna get rid of a land. And the rest doesn't, well, and a creature. And the rest doesn't matter. And this is what I meant when I said that the Blitz of the Thunder Raptor isn't going to be too bad of a, or too much of a problem. As you can see, it's still very much alive. I'm going to decline. I do want to draw off of those lands. I have no need to develop my mana beyond this point. Opponent deploys an Omen. I believe we might actually just be SOL here. I'm not sure what our plan is moving into game 2 or 3. Yeah, that resolves. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and move into the next game because we're not going to win this, and our clock is getting low. Alright, so we're going to want the Scrabbling Claws. We're going to want the other... No, we're not. I was thinking Uro, but that's their only problem in that color. Disdainful Stroke, negate. I don't think we want the Return to Nature. We do want the Fry. And let's go ahead and get rid of Quench ×1. Fire Prophecy, they're not really low to the ground. I'm tempted. I'm going to keep the Scorching Dragonfire. It can still kill a Narset, it can still kill a Downtick to Fairy, and it can still exile an Uro. I'm going to drop Storm's Wraths. And here is the difficult part. I think with all the better counters I have, I'm going to drop the Quenches. Because I have more specialized counters for whatever they're doing. And the Quench is really just kind of there, say. I don't know what I'm going to be facing, so I'll bring those in post-board. Play first. On the play, scry lands, untap lands, Uro is good enough for me. Don't need more land right now. I have my first 4 lined up, and I should find my 5th and probably honestly 6th before the end of that. Temple of Abandon, I don't need to hold up mana yet. Growth Spiral I like. Lets me go tap land past turn. Resolve. Then I'll get to go Growth Spiral into Temple. Start turning through my deck. I think that's going to be the last game. Matches take a lot longer, and ooh, that's taking something out of me, especially in the heat. Alright, let's go ahead and deploy an always tap land. I don't need that yet, although I kind of want it for the Hydroid, but I should be fine without it. I think I'll deploy a 2/2 Shark. I'd rather make it a 3/3. And life total isn't the most relevant factor in this kind of a matchup. Omen is fine. I get to hold up my opt for when I know what I'm looking for later, which is one of the nice things about it being only 1 mana. You can kind of just hold on to it and it won't hurt you too bad late. And also early, you know, it lets you start digging for what you need on turn 1 if you kept a kinda greedy 2-lander, but hey, it had 2 opts and a scry land. Probably shouldn't be keeping those. It seems, not ideal. Alright, and here comes the shark. Worth noting, we can deploy a 4/4 Krasis here. And there's not really much our opponent can do to punish us for it. Not much we can do to punish our opponent if we don't either, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Also remember, even if they counter it, it's a triggered ability that draws us those cards. So I'll take the card advantage and deal with the Yorion later. There we go. So that traded for 1 card in my opponent's hand and 2 cards in my hand. Ye olde 2 for 1. Huh. Okay, that's not something I was expecting, and it's definitely a problem. I hadn't been thinking about the just straight up deployment of the Shark Typhoon. Probably something I should have considered. Opponent showed us that they were willing to do that last game, although that was in a much different spot, I felt. But yeah, we were tapped out. It was definitely right. Maybe we should have brought in the enchantment hate. Trying to think of what changed in our plan. We're not able to cast and deploy an Uro. I'm gonna go ahead and opt. Blast Zone. There we go. There's the plan. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and deploy our Uro first. It still leaves us with both Neutralize and Blast Zone and Negate open. Leaves us with absolutely everything we could do beforehand. Did I just forget to play a land normally, though? Well, you know what they say. Nobody's good at Magic. Everyone just sucks more or less, and I definitely suck more. So here, I'm going to go ahead and negate, and if they do anything, I get to Mystical Dispute it. Huh. Well, not great. one way of putting the situation we have found ourselves in. I think we're gonna go ahead and just deploy the Euro. Makes our blitz worse, but right now that's not our main concern. We will even deploy our Triome. Because right now we're trying to get the mana, or get our mana to a point where we're comfortable with what we're able to pump into that blast zone. That's something we have to neutralize. Can't accept just losing Uro here. That is the other thing that is unfortunate from that, though. Alright, so here we could go Scorching, Scorching, and then keep the Uro. Or Scorch, Blitz, keep Uro. So I'm going to go ahead and swing. See if I can convince our opponent to trade off everything here for it. And I Scorch one. Uro kills the other. And with our opponent's hand where it is, I don't think we're actually in that bad of a position anymore. Especially because we're going to start eating away our opponent's ability to use their own Uros, taking that away as a concern in the future. And charges up to 4, and... well, that was something we were just kind of hoping wouldn't happen to us. But now that it has, what are we going to do about it? Debating, do we want... because they're going to target the Uro. And I'm debating on if we want to double blitz our Uro, or if we're able to beat... no, we're not able to beat the Uro. There's a 2-for-1 either way. Let's make it a 3-for-1 that doesn't let our opponent gain card advantage on us every single turn for the rest of the game. It's not how I wanted that tapped. Well, that's what I get. That's what I get for not looking at how it was tapping my mana. Could have put a charge counter on that. Yes, yes, I know, you're very happy, opponent. Especially because they can Yorion. No blocks. We're gonna hit them for 3. Just to get this out of the way, because it doesn't matter when you do that part. Submit. We do have a faster clock, but let's be honest, that's not gonna come into play here. Let's see, what could they do? Take out the Teferi, because if we hit another Scrabbling Claws later, we'll be able to take out the other and prevent Elspeth Conquers Death shenanigans that way. No, do not tap like that. Green, red, blue. Deploy the Thirst with the Epiphany in hand so that we can discard it if we wanted. Scry. Lands are not going to win us this. And deploying thing, we could hit a counter. Let me see. What have we got? Well, what do you know? I suppose we keep that. And the turn, they're going to likely try and blink their agent and other such permanents. We're going to go ahead and kill their agent in response because we're not letting them blink that. It's, we're gonna hold on to it though, in case they do something else. Because if they do something else, we'd be able to charge up our blast zone, and we don't mind taking 7 yet. Narset's fine. I mean, not really because of the Typhoon, but it's fine.
No one is more
We'll take our Scry, actually.
with thoughtfulness before action.
Whiff on Narset, that's rare. Okay, we're gonna take our Scry. On our turn, I imagine the only outs we have are gonna involve blitzing the Narset before we do them. One such out being, I suppose not an out, because our opponent would be able to just follow it up. A Fry. I like that. I'm gonna Fry the Narset.
I
Pass
have
turn.
reached my limit.
Stop them from being able to actually get the card advantage there. It's not helping us advance, but it's also stopping our opponent from pushing us further back. And if they push us any further back than this, then we just don't have anything we can do. So if we blitz the agent, as long as the agent dies, then we're not worried about the Yorion. Oh. So here, I'm gonna trade. They now have the faster clock, and I'd need to get rid of that shark to, you know, help slow it down a little. It did its job. It drew us a card, it dealt some damage. We can't have the hope of the world rest on the back of one flying 3/3 shark. Oh boy, Tamio I think is the nail in the coffin here. I think we're kind of banking on a blank for a turn. Well, that means blitz. Also, wish Blast Zone could be put on 0 without the use of counter-removing shenanigans. Let's see. Yep.
I follow the tracks of the wise.
Putting it to 4 doesn't save us. We need to scry. Neither of those are very good. Hydroid Crisis or Bust, I think. Oh, it looks like it's Bust. Maybe I... No, scrying in the upkeep didn't let Hydroid Crisis do anything. Alright, and that is game. We made a pretty big mistake in tapping out early, and we got heavily punished for it. That kind of just shows the power of the standard format. If we'd been able to play appropriately and counter the Shark Typhoon, we'd have been in a pretty good spot. But we played bad, opponent immediately capitalized, and that's what they should do, honestly. If your opponent makes a mistake, don't let them get away with that. Just go ahead and win the game. It's really what you should be doing. I'm going to go ahead and concede. There is no possible chance of victory from this situation, other than our opponent disconnects, and I don't really want that kind of a victory anyway. A little bit of a shame I didn't truly get to showcase the power of the deck here. It's been pretty good in testing. The non-bow did come up there, which is good because I also wanted to show you guys that, just so that you know, hey, this is a deck that has flaws. This is not something I would very much recommend just anybody play, but I do think it is something powerful, and something that if iterated upon, probably in the Sultai colors, if I'm being completely honest, would be the best, or would be something that could compete, and at a very, very high level. I'm not sure what exactly you would be doing with, so let me check in black just for anything that exiles. Because you would need exiling removal. That's just something I think this standard needs. I guess you have Legion's End. for one of your removal spells to take the place of like Scorching Dragonfires, you'd probably want 2 of them. You do get Agonizing Remorse. You could be a little bit less counterspell focused, a little more discard and get in there was another option. Let's say 2 or less and alright, mana cost 2 or less. So it doesn't really work on the Uros of the world, so I'm not the biggest fan of Legion's End upon reflection. Cry of the Carnarium. I think Cry of the Carnarium's a lot better than Flame Sweep. And I might main these actually. I might main 1, maybe 2. Probably 1, honestly. Let's see. And I don't think you have... Let's include Not Collected here. Because I know you get the Hero's Downfall creature. The adventure guy. That is... Let me see. Oh, you get Eat to Extinction. Alright. I'd probably only play 2, so it's a little bit more expensive. Obnixilus's Cruelty is close, but I think for 3 mana you would rather have, what is it, Woe Strider? Why isn't it showing up? Oh, because I have it on Exile, so yeah, you would get Woe Strider. Extinction Event is a sweeper, a lot better. Alright, I'm starting to think, yeah, you're not going to have the no exile problem here. Like, worst case scenario, you have Obnixilus's Cruelty, which still exile. It doesn't kill Uro, actually, never mind. You don't want that. Let's see. Just trying to do a quick look through, see what we could do. I guess I'd actually play like maybe 1 or 2 Erebos' Intervention. Maybe, that might be my main removal spell. 2 mana against mono red, kill a 1/1 gain a life. Doesn't seem like the best, but I mean, consider in the late game where you can kill literally anything they have and gain an absurd number, or absurd amount of life. And as for the exiling from graveyards, hey, you now have main board graveyard hate. Yeah, that card I think is absurd. I think I'd play up to actually 4 of those. You could kill an Uro, gain some life. It's a little expensive for that. I think I'd main deck... No, against Uro you want to exile. Yeah. Maybe main deck 3, sideboard the 4th, but I'd have 4 in the 75 when I moved into Sultai, when I get the lands, mostly. Ooh, Thief of Sanity. I'd play 1 or 2. I think I'd be more tap out if I was playing the version I need to collect the funds for. Thief of Sanity is a really good card. It exiles one of them, so you can hit the... So if you hit an Uro and you're like, I don't really feel like giving my opponent an Uro, you can just keep that one exiled and have the others there. You're still fueling their yards, so a little sketch, a little bit more than it was before, but I think it's still good. Let's see. Ashiok Nightmare Muse is a Planeswalker. Yeah, I think I'd be just tap out, playing the most powerful cards I could. Ah, Bolas. How I wish you were in a supported color pair right now. That card is so fun. Haven't gotten to play with it on Arena yet, but I've played with it in paper and... Whoo boy! Borrowed a deck and oh my god, was Bolas brutal. You don't even need the other Planeswalkers to make him good. His +1 just is 2 cards and card advantage. 1 for your hand, 1 from your opponent's resources. -3. Just, come on, let's just have a walker that just straight up nukes another walker. Like, oh boy, nice to Fairy. Be a shame if he wasn't around anymore. And his -8 is literally win the game. It just says win the game on it. So, you know, Wrath, Sweeper, whatever you can do. -8 your Bolas, a win. And the +1 is just so good, though. Just play him, plus him, plus him, plus him. And even the plus can, like, kill their Planeswalker eventually. And if they have a walker, you can use its abilities, so yeah. Alright, and that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video. Till next time, have a wonderful life. And I swear I know what I'm doing, and I'm not just hitting Control Alt F4 instead of